Okay, so I am going to let you guys in on a little secret that your doctor might not necessarily be explaining to you. I know most people are aware that when you have a baby, they tell you to limit screen time, make sure that you're reading to them, things like that. But they never fully explain why you need to make sure that you're reading to your children. The reason why, at least from my perspective as a teacher, or soon-to-be teacher, thank you, honey, is because when you are reading to your child, you are expanding their vocabulary. So, as you can see here, I have a bunch of ABCs of such and such books. So, math, biology, physics, space, pretty much anything you can think of, I have an ABCs book on. And there are a few more that I actually need to get, but I'm not super concerned about them because this does a pretty wide range for my son. And we also have other books, like the one that I just covered up was cell biology, that explains the types of cells, or like what goes on inside of cells is more what that one does. The other one we have is cardiology, and that one explains the circulatory system in like layman's terms, which is really interesting. But I also have like first 100 words, and you can get these in all different types. I specifically like the ones that are the baby university sets, just because I like to really expand my son's knowledge and vocabulary with words that he might not necessarily be experiencing in everyday life. So, I mean, he might experience a lot of words, like the different types of animals, or the different types of farm animals, or the different types of vegetables or fruits pretty regularly, like when we go to the grocery store, or if we go to the zoo, or, you know, just the pets around the house, things like that. But he's not going to be hearing a lot of biochemistry words coming out of mine or my husband's mouth, or economic words, or physics words. These aren't common terms that people are just discussing regularly. And so these are really important to me because it does actually expand his vocabulary quite a lot. So he's not just absorbing what we're saying and understanding what we're saying, but he's also starting to begin to understand some of the words that are in these books on a very basic, very like rudimentary level. And that is very good for him because it's starting his vocabulary off very, I guess, big or large at the beginning, instead of him starting off with just very basic things like his colors or his ABCs or his numbers, or, you know, just, we have a ton of like Dr. Seuss books. Most people read a bunch of Dr. Seuss books to their kids, or the like Little Critter, Berenstain Bears books. But I also have a variety of other books. So we have like Happy Little Farm. He's getting the experience of farm animals while also getting to hear what they sound like. And it's a very interactive book, which is very helpful. But that is something that he could learn just regularly without that book. These things, on the other hand, a little bit more elaborate and a little bit more difficult for him to just know, just because. The biggest reason why you're wanting your children to be read to regularly, it doesn't have to be a lot, it doesn't have to be, you know, every single day, because I did that and it was very exhausting, is because you are wanting to expand their vocabulary. So if you find a set number of books, or, you know, decide that for you it is best to just read, you know, 1 or 2 books every other day, that's perfectly fine. You're still helping build upon their vocabulary. You're still helping build upon that level of comprehension and fluency that they will be experiencing later on. You're helping them to understand things that they might not understand otherwise. So just keep that in mind whenever you are reading to your child or thinking about reading to your child, that this is actually helping them for their future self whenever they start reading or start learning how to read. These kinds of things are helping them to actually develop further. So in one of my classes right now, we are discussing the difference between phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, things like that. And one of the biggest points that is being made is that for things like fluency, yes, you want to be able to read things very fluid, just like the same way that you would talk. But the best way to go about that and the best way to understand that is to have a really good vocabulary and a very good, understanding of what's being read. And in order to have a really good vocabulary, you either have to listen to someone else read, you have to read yourself, or you have to be read to. So it's, listening to other people talking, other people doing things, watching the way that their mouths moving, watching the way that they're actually, saying things and in what context they're saying things. It's reading to yourself. So once your child starts getting to that age where they can read to themselves, buy them those beginner reading books, not the level 1, because those are actually very advanced for beginner readers. They don't start off with like 2 or 3 letter words. They start off with like 5, 6 letter words. And that to me is very advanced. I've looked into those myself for my son. But get the pre-level books. Those actually start off with like The Cat Sat on the Mat. Very simple, very easy to understand, very basic, so that they actually get that, extra leg up, and they actually get to understand what they're reading, as well as they can read those very basic, like sight words. If you do that, it will really help them whenever they start getting to like grades 2 and 3, and they're starting to have to do that like independent reading, the, read this passage and answer these questions. So helping them with those first steps, like when they're little, reading them books to help expand their vocabulary. And once they get a little bit older and they actually start sitting with you, pointing to the words, trying to read with you, flipping through books, things like that, and they're giving indicators that they're starting to be ready to read with you, start buying them those pre-level books that will actually help them with learning how to sound out words, learning how to actually say certain things. So like the cat in the hat, that's very simple, but the words are very long in the book, if that makes sense. You want something that is simple, like that title, but is not very elaborate throughout the story itself. So I hope that kind of helps with your understanding of why your doctor would be insisting upon you reading to your child every day. For us, you can tell which books are very heavily loved. It's definitely his 8 Little Planets and I Heart Pluto quite a lot, because those are my 2 most damaged books that are over here. But he loves those to death. He likes flipping through them. He likes looking at them. It's actually helping him to understand how to open a book, flip through it, understanding where the words are in the book and how to read them. So when we read through them, I'm always making sure that, we have the understanding of, we start at the top, we're reading 8 Little Planets, and then we can flip to the next page, and then we start on this side and work our way to this side from top to bottom. So you want to help with directionality and vocabulary. I hope you'll have a great rest of your day, and I hope that this was helpful in some way. Bye.